I'm sorry, but I have absolutely no intention of doing business with an ugly woman, inside and out.
Standing in the pouring rain, Lillian was frozen in shock.
Daniel. I'm sorry. I thought I could be of help, but I guess I'm useless, aren't I?
Forcing a smile, her voice trembled as she spoke. Lillian had pinned her last hope on directly negotiating with the client. She had pleaded, "Please, at least hear me out," and headed to the high-end Korean barbecue restaurant where the meeting was set to take place.
However, the client's only response was, "You actually came? I don't do business with ugly women. Get lost."
I clenched my fists instinctively. Suppressing the anger that made my body tremble, I stepped closer to Lillian.
You did nothing wrong, Lillian. You don't need to care about what a man like that says.
Tears welled up in her eyes and began streaming down her face.
I gently placed a hand on her shoulder. But, because of me, we lost an important business deal. No, it's not over yet,
I said firmly, determination in my voice. I'll make them pay for looking down on a small company. With that resolve burning inside me, I strode toward the Korean barbecue restaurant. As I stepped inside, I spotted the client lounging at a table, casually grilling meat. But the moment he saw us, the color drained from his face.
"Oh, you might be."
His voice cracked. The arrogance he had just moments ago was completely gone. His eyes widened in fear, and the chopsticks in his hand clattered against the table. And soon, he would deeply regret every bit of his past misconduct. My name is Daniel, a 38-year-old bachelor devoted entirely to my work. Due to my company's business operations, I had spent the past 4 years overseas. As I grew up abroad as a child, I was fluent in multiple languages and had no trouble handling international communication. Plus, with a degree in linguistics, I had more than just language skills, I had a solid understanding of global cultures and business etiquette, which made me a strong candidate for this role. Back in college, when the rise of tech entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley started making headlines, I found myself drawn to the IT industry.
At first, it was just curiosity.
But as my friends and I spent countless nights tinkering with computers, I became completely captivated by the world of technology. To me, programming felt like an endless treasure trove of possibilities. With every line of code I wrote, my ideas took shape. It was like magic. The thrill of debugging all night and finally seeing my program run successfully was incomparable to anything else. I had always been good with my hands, and having an older brother who studied engineering, I naturally gravitated toward understanding complex systems and programming languages. With my friends, I studied for IT certifications on our own and dabbled in game programming. Through that, I became convinced this was my calling. The IT world evolves rapidly, with new technologies and concepts emerging every day. Being at the cutting edge, using my skills to make life more convenient and exciting, that thought alone made my heart race with excitement. But, of course, my parents were completely against it.
"You're still young. Get some experience at a big company first. What if the IT boom dies out? Get a stable job first.
You can pursue your hobbies later."
I understood their concerns.
But my passion for IT only grew stronger with each passing day. I had no intention of giving up on my dream, but at the same time, I lacked the achievements and confidence to convince them otherwise. So, I came up with a compromise. I'd enter the industry first, gain practical experience, and chase my dreams while proving my worth.
Maybe then, my parents would finally understand.
With that decision made, I threw myself into job hunting. I applied to every IT-related company I could find, regardless of size. Big corporations, startups, new businesses, it didn't matter. All I wanted was a place where I could pour my passion into my work and hone my skills.
During my interviews, I passionately spoke about my commitment to IT. I want to use technological advancements to enrich people's lives. I want to elevate Japanese tech industry to a world-class level.
I shamelessly voiced these grand dreams.
Some interviewers found my enthusiasm amusing.
"You're the kind of young talent that will change this industry," some even said, reassuring me that I was on the right path. After receiving several job offers, I ultimately chose a newly established system development company called Snufla, rather than prioritizing the stability of a large corporation. I wanted an environment where my opinions could be heard and where I had the opportunity to take on new challenges. Snufla specialized in developing systems focused on building information infrastructure. They provided total solutions integrating web systems and applications. The company handled operations and maintenance for business systems across various industries, and in recent years, they had leveraged their overseas presence to focus on improving internet infrastructure in developing countries. After spending years working at different international branches, I finally returned to Japan. The moment I stepped into the office, familiar faces welcomed me back. "Welcome back. It's been a while. Man, you got a lot darker. Daniel, do you still remember how to speak Japanese?" "Shut up. I'm speaking just fine, aren't I? Ha ha." As I basked in the warmth of their playful teasing, I suddenly noticed an unfamiliar face. "Who's that? A new hire?" I turned to Tyler, a junior colleague, and asked, "Hey, that woman with the long hair sitting over there, is she new?" "Oh, her? She joined as a mid-career hire about 3 months ago. Her name's Lillian." But the way he said it didn't sound welcoming at all. Playing with his bangs, Tyler continued, "She kinda has this aloof vibe. I'm not a fan." "Well, she does seem a bit cool and distant." From a distance, her sharp features and striking profile made it clear she was a total knockout. She had that cool, confident aura. The kind that would have easily earned her the label of classic aloof yet affectionate back in the day. She barely responds when you talk to her, it's hard to tell if she's even listening, and she always looks grumpy. Honestly, she's kinda hard to approach. I see. Glancing around the office, I took in the atmosphere. Now that he mentioned it, no one seemed to be engaging with her, and she wasn't making an effort to approach anyone either. Looks like it'll take some time for her to warm up to people. As I pondered what to do, I noticed my supervisor, Brandon, approaching. "Good work, Daniel. Hey, how's Japan treating you after all this time?" "Man, things have changed so much around here, I almost got lost on my way from the station." We shared a laugh, engaging in some casual banter, but then Brandon's expression turned slightly troubled. "Listen, I hate to drop this on you so soon, but I need a favor." "Let me guess, sales?" "Exactly. So, about this new employee, Lillian. Tyler just told me about her. She joined recently, right?" "Yeah, that's right. She's capable and does solid work, but she's struggling with sales visits." "Is she not good at talking to people?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out. But it seems like she's having a hard time with one of the clients she's handling." "I see. So, what do you need me to do?" "I want you to go with her on sales visits. You're good with people, and you can talk your way through anything, right?" Judging by Brandon's half-joking yet pleading tone, I could tell they had already tried to manage the situation without success. "All right, I'll do what I can. Thanks. Oh, and by the way, today's visit is to her former company." "Wait. Lillian used to work at YCD?" YCD was one of the top system development companies, a powerhouse in the IT industry. "Yeah, apparently, she had some issues over there. That might be part of the reason she's so stiff. But anyway, I'm counting on you." Brandon said this with a friendly smile, giving me a reassuring pat on the shoulder. And just like that, I set off with Lillian for our client meeting. "Nice to meet you. I'm Daniel, and I'll be accompanying you on sales visits from today." "Nice to meet you. I'm Lillian." As we prepared ourselves in the company car before arriving at the client's office, We went through our usual routine, making sure we looked presentable and ensuring that we wouldn't come across as unprofessional. Without a hint of emotion on her face, as if she were in a meditative state, Lillian quickly introduced herself and immediately started flipping through her documents.
Hey, did you make that?
Yes, I did.
Mind if I take a look?
She handed it over, her expression slightly wary. The moment I glanced at the contents, I was stunned.
This is incredible.
Huh? I must have accidentally spoken my thoughts out loud because she looked up, slightly startled.
Lillian, this is a great document. You think so?
I just put it together on my computer. She responded curtly, but I continued. It clearly lays out our system structure with easy-to-understand diagrams.
The numerical data is well supported with detailed explanations.
Sure. Some people might find the small text a bit overwhelming, but if I were a client, this would make me feel confident about working with your company.
No doubt about it. Thank you.
She seemed unaccustomed to receiving praise, though her expression still looked a bit reserved. The icy demeanor she had maintained earlier softened ever so slightly.
Look, you put together something this solid. You should have more confidence in yourself.
All right.
I'll do my best.
She bowed her head hesitantly, then followed behind me, almost like a little chick trailing its mother. I couldn't shake off a slight sense of unease, but with no time to dwell on it, we stepped into the towering office building, where the massive sign of the major system development company loomed over us.
Huh, I heard you changed jobs, but I never imagined you'd end up coming back here as a business partner.
The man sitting across from us leaned back in his chair, casually running a hand through his long bangs. In a bright, sunlit conference room with a stunning view, Lillian and I sat, both feeling a bit on edge. Sitting in front of us was Jason, a so-called star employee at YCD. YCD was one of our most important business partners, and this deal was one of our biggest potential contracts. Since Lillian had previously worked at YCD as a system engineer and knew Jason, she was assigned to lead this project.
However,
she's got a nice face, but man, she's the most boring, bloomy chick I've ever met. Talking to her was a total snooze fest.
I see.
From the moment we sat down, Jason had been nonstop ridiculing her, both personally and professionally.
Lillian kept her gaze fixed downward, silent.
I figured she'd at least move to another big company, considering she's competent enough to get by.
But wow.
Imagine my surprise when I heard she went to some no-name company.
Man, what a joke. He let out a condescending laugh.
I could feel my anger slowly rising.
Excuse me, but we're here to discuss business. When will we be allowed to begin?
Oh, about that. Jason glanced at his nails, speaking in a lazy drawl. I was kinda curious about what kind of people work at a small company like yours, so I made some time.
But now? I'm not feeling it anymore.
So?
Yeah, this meeting's over.
Wait, at least hear us out. I tried to push back, but he waved me off dismissively.
Man, you're persistent. Listen, we deal with major clients.
We don't have time to waste on small fry companies like yours.
I could see the disappointment in Lillian's expression.
Realizing there was no point in arguing, I said, at the very least, please take a look at these materials. I placed the documents Lillian had carefully prepared in front of him. But Jason merely glanced at them before scoffing and pushing them aside without even flipping through them.
Just give up on getting a deal with us. With that, he got up and walked out of the room.
Thank you for today. Lillian lowered her head shyly.
No, I should be the one thanking you. I learned a lot.
But, after what they said to me over there, I can't stop worrying about how this might affect our company's sales.
If it does, then so be it. That just means it wasn't the right opportunity. YCD isn't our only client. Besides,
I decided to be upfront about what was on my mind. Looking at her gently, I said, "You should have more confidence in yourself. You put together such an impressive report, after all." She cast her gaze downward, looking embarrassed, and then slowly opened up. "Ever since I was little, people always complimented my appearance. But because of that, I started to worry that I was just a pretty face and nothing more. It made me uncomfortable being in the spotlight. Maybe that's part of why I've always been so reserved." Seeing her honestly share her thoughts, I felt a sense of admiration for her. Thinking back to the meeting with Jason, I added, "I figured since I already knew Jason, it might actually make things easier, but that clearly wasn't the case." At that moment, Lillian hesitated, then lowered her head slightly and said something unexpected in a soft voice. "Actually, we used to date, just once." "Wait, what?" "Oh, I see." For a moment, I was at a loss for words. I couldn't hide my surprise at this unexpected revelation. So there was history between Lillian and Jason. This sudden turn of events stirred something complicated inside me. I started to feel like I had pried into something I shouldn't have, and an awkward silence settled between us. Sensing the tension, Lillian forced a smile. "But it was a long time ago, and I'm completely over it. Honestly, I only agreed to date him because he was so persistent. I never really had any feelings for him." "I see, in that case." I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should say what was on my mind. But in the end, I decided it was for her own good. "I get that you're naturally reserved, and I understand why you don't want people to judge you based on your looks. But it's such a waste. Even if it's just a little at a time, try engaging more with the people in the company. They'll support you, I promise. You worked at an incredible company like YCD, which means you're capable. You just need to take things one step at a time." I said it all in one breath, feeling a little winded, but I had put my heart into it. She looked a bit surprised, but I could tell that, even just a little, she was smiling. "Thank you. No one's ever said something like that to me before," she admitted, looking slightly embarrassed. I spoke honestly. "I mean, how could I not say it? Your report really impressed me. The diagrams are clear, the text size is perfect. It made me realize what it truly means to be a competent professional." She smiled, looking genuinely happy. Hearing that makes all the effort feel worth it. At my old company, I used to get scolded for spending too much time on the details. I thought I'd hear the same thing here. Shaking my head, I explained. "Not at all. We're a small company, which means we all have to help each other. If we spend our time butting heads, nothing will ever get done." I let out a small chuckle. Nodding thoughtfully, she responded, "You're right. A company's size doesn't really matter in the end. It's just a group of people working together. Finding good people. Regardless of where you are, that's rarer than winning the lottery." Her words struck a chord with me. I feel the same way. That's why I'm really glad you joined our team. Dealing with YCD won't be easy, but we'll do everything we can." With a renewed determination in her eyes, she said, "Yes. I'll try my best, even if it's just little by little. I've always believed that work is best when you enjoy it." So, I made an effort to help Lillian settle in at Snufla. Whenever the team was chatting about something fun, I would casually invite her into the conversation by saying, "Hey, what do you think, Lillian?" When one of our colleagues announced their engagement, I asked her to be the one to hand over the congratulatory gift, giving her a natural reason to interact with the team. If an issue arose at work, I would ask for her input. During meetings, I structured things so that everyone, including her, had a chance to speak. Over time, as she gained confidence, her timid greetings became a little louder, and she started joining casual conversations during breaks. Gradually, the way people in the company viewed her began to change.
Before long, I started noticing her chatting with the other women in the office. Lillian, do you know how to do this? Oh, yes, I think this might be the issue. She naturally began helping others with their work, slowly developing a sense of teamwork. Watching her transformation, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Here, Lillian, I got you a souvenir. Thank you. Oh, did you go on a trip? Yeah, it was somewhere I'd been wanting to go for a while. During a short break, I overheard her cheerful voice and curiously glanced over. She was happily chatting with a colleague who had just returned from vacation, enthusiastically discussing travel. Apparently, travel was one of her hobbies. She's been smiling a lot more lately. The perception of her within the office was clearly changing. She used to seem hard to approach, but now she's totally normal. At first, she seemed intimidating, but I guess she was just nervous. Not only is she great at her job, but her knowledge is insane. She must have studied a lot. I think I misjudged her. More and more people were starting to appreciate her. And I felt relieved that the misunderstandings about her were being cleared up. One day, I casually asked her, "So, how are things?" "You seem to be smiling a lot more these days." She nodded, looking genuinely happy. "Yeah. I've never felt this happy while working before." "That's great to hear," I replied with relief. After a brief pause, she looked at me with gratitude and said, "It's all thanks to you, Daniel." I used to think that personal relationships at work were unnecessary. That getting too close to colleagues wasn't a good thing. But coming to Snufla has made me realize that camaraderie and teamwork are entirely different from favoritism. I nodded in agreement. Exactly. Everyone here is serious about their work, but at the same time, they enjoy what they do. That balance makes this place so comfortable. In some ways, it's more laid back than a big corporation. "I think this kind of environment suits me," she said confidently. "Same here," I agreed. We exchanged warm smiles, feeling a mutual understanding growing between us. At that moment, I thought, it would be great if things could continue like this. But then one particular day changed everything. It was the day of our monthly all-hands meeting, and with a critical project on the line, the discussion was more heated than usual. "Man, I wonder what's going to happen with the YCD deal," Brandon murmured while glancing at me. His voice was naturally loud, so even though he hadn't meant for everyone to hear, his words reached Lillian, who immediately lowered her gaze, looking apologetic. I didn't want her to feel disheartened, so I spoke up. "Well, we don't know how that situation will play out, but we've been getting positive responses from other potential clients. I think we should seriously consider moving forward with those contracts." Hearing that, Brandon and the rest of the team nodded in agreement, reassuring me that no one had taken my words the wrong way. After the meeting, as I was about to leave the conference room, Lillian hurried over to me. "Daniel." "What's up?" "About the YCD deal. I think I should step down as the lead." Her expression was so serious and urgent that I almost took a step back. "I don't think that's necessary." "But I get it. It must be uncomfortable working with someone you used to date, even if it was brief." "No, that's not it," she shook her head. "It's just, after what happened last time, I can't shake the feeling that I might end up jeopardizing this important deal. If that happens, I'd never forgive myself. Don't worry about it too much." "Are you okay, Lillian?" "Yes, I'm fine." Seeing her familiar, comfortable smile, I let out a quiet sigh of relief. I want to contribute. Snufla changed me. I want to give back to the company that helped me grow. Thank you. Just having that mindset is already more than enough." She simply smiled, perhaps as a way to hide her embarrassment. After that, Lillian threw herself into her work with even greater dedication. "Emily, is this system workflow correct?" I'm struggling with this part, could you explain it to me?
Eric, I tweaked the app's functionality to make it run more smoothly. Before, whenever she needed help, she would simply look hesitant and hesitate to ask.
Now, she actively engaged with others, asking questions and offering assistance without hesitation. Everyone in the office couldn't help but notice how much more driven Lillian had become. It was as if something had lit a fire inside her, and her efficiency and enthusiasm had skyrocketed. Don't you think Lillian has been really motivated lately?
I just hope she's not pushing herself too hard.
But yeah, she's definitely putting in the effort.
You know, she changed right after Daniel came back.
And honestly, she's gotten even prettier. Hey, do you think?
As they glanced between me and Lillian, my colleagues exchanged knowing smiles, whispering amongst themselves. Then, one of them turned to me with a smirk.
Daniel, you and Lillian seem to be getting pretty close. Is there something going on?
Huh?
What? What do you mean?
Caught off guard by the unexpected question, I almost spilled my coffee.
Come on, you've noticed too, right?
She's looking amazing these days.
And that change happened right after you returned.
Well, yeah, I guess, but she's just a colleague.
Maybe she's found someone she likes.
I said it firmly, as if convincing myself.
Then, another colleague chimed in.
By the way, I heard a rumor about why she left YCD.
Do you know the reason?
No, not really. Apparently, she got dumped by one of YCD's top guys.
Some say that's why she left. Wait, seriously? And isn't she the one handling our negotiations with YCD?
Maybe she's hoping to get back together with him through this deal. Jason's face flashed in my mind, and I tried my best to mask my reaction.
No way, that can't be true, right?
Lately, Lillian had changed. She seemed brighter, more confident. She had started wearing more colorful outfits and had even surprised me a few times by showing up in elegant dresses. I had caught myself staring more often than I cared to admit.
I've just been too lazy to pick out my usual outfits lately.
She had once laughed, and I realized I had started watching her more closely. Seeing her not just as a colleague, but as a woman.
Something I never would have imagined before. Should we just continue as colleagues? Or should I just lay my feelings on the line and tell her everything?
But every time I thought of what my colleague had said, that she might want to get back with Jason, I hesitated.
Even if she says she's over him, how can I really know?
Jason's sharp, confident face and Lillian's soft profile kept playing on a loop in my mind, leaving me restless.
And then, in the midst of it all,
the rain had been relentless for the past week, pouring down like overturned buckets. That day, too, the streets were soaked, puddles forming at every step as I walked with the client, scanning for a nearby cafe to take shelter.
Oh man, look at that person.
They're completely drenched.
Hope they're okay. My client muttered as he glanced ahead. I instinctively looked in the same direction.
Yeah, they'll catch a cold at this rate. A figure stood in the rain, long hair clinging to their face, staring forward with an eerie stillness.
Their trench coat was soaked through, darkened by the rain, water dripping from the hem. Wait, that person looks familiar, is that? And then I realized. It was Lillian.
Without a second thought, I rushed toward her.
Lillian, what happened? Daniel.
Her face was completely drenched, and her eyes were red and swollen from crying.
I couldn't let it go.
Tears spilled down her cheeks, mixing with the rain.
I called Jason.
I wanted him to seriously consider our contract, and he agreed to at least hear me out.
So I came here.
She pointed toward the restaurant behind her. But the moment I sat down across from him, he suddenly started laughing.
I didn't understand, so I asked him why.
And then, he said this. With a trembling voice, Lillian began recounting what had happened. At the scheduled time, she had arrived in front of the upscale Korean barbecue restaurant. Taking a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves, she stepped inside. The restaurant staff guided her to a table where Jason was already seated. "Oh, you actually showed up. Well, go ahead, sit." His eyes held nothing but mocking disdain as he looked her up and down. Even so, Lillian bowed politely. "Thank you for taking the time to meet with me." Despite her courtesy, Jason's expression remained as cold as ever. In fact, his gaze seemed even sharper, his smirk more condescending. Just as she began speaking regarding our company's proposal, Jason cut her off. "Whoa, you actually showed up? Are you stupid or something?" Obviously, I was joking. "Having someone like you here ruins my appetite. Do you even get it? Someone like you walking into a high-class restaurant like this is just ridiculous." "Sorry, but I have zero interest in doing business with a woman who's garbage inside and out. Just get lost." After Jason's harsh words, Lillian flinched for a moment but quickly pulled herself together. "Jason, could you please spare just 5 minutes to hear me out? I truly believe this deal is a great opportunity for both companies." Jason gave her a cold stare and scoffed, "Shut up. Your words aren't worth my time. Please. It doesn't have to be right now. Just give me a chance." Jason let out a sigh. "All right, fine. If you can stand outside quietly and wait until I finish my meal, maybe I'll hear you out." He smirked as he said this. "Understood. I'll be waiting," Lillian replied. With that, she stepped outside and waited. It had started raining, but she clung to Jason's words, standing there, soaking wet, enduring the cold. "That bastard." I was trembling with anger. "Is Jason still inside?" Lillian nodded, wiping away her tears. I turned to our business associate, looking apologetic. "I'm sorry, but something urgent just came up." The associate nodded understandingly. "I see. This seems too serious to ignore. May I accompany you?" "All right, let's all go." This might actually be a good opportunity, I decided firmly. And so, the three of us stepped into the building where Jason was. Well. Oh. What's with the whole group? Despite it being midday, Jason was sitting there, leisurely enjoying a plate of grilled meat. I took a seat across from him. My anger barely contained. "I heard you had some pretty nasty things to say to Lillian." But Jason showed no remorse. "Not really. I just stated the truth. There are things you should and shouldn't say." "Oh, come on. You're her senior, right? Then maybe you should teach her some manners." "What exactly are you trying to say?" "I'm saying that I was in the middle of enjoying a nice meal during my limited free time. And then, out of nowhere, she barged in, begging me to hear her out. I had no plans after this, so I thought, fine, maybe I'll listen. But the moment I saw that unbearable face of hers, I lost all interest. And honestly, I doubt anything she had to say was worth my time anyway. I was just being upfront about it." He laughed through his nose before stuffing his mouth with a juicy, sizzling piece of meat. "Do you get my point now? So yeah, anyway. Then I take it the $800 million contract is off the table? Huh? What the hell are you talking about?" The smug expression on Jason's face instantly vanished. His brows furrowed. "Oh. I believe I already provided you with the detailed documents regarding the deal." "Wait. Did you?" I don't really remember." Jason blinked repeatedly as if trying to recall something. Then, the client who had been watching the exchange finally spoke. "You just threw away a massive deal." "What? You're Jason, right? I heard you're supposed to be YCD's top performer, but honestly, you don't seem all that impressive." "Sorry. but we'll be taking this deal to our company instead." With that, the client adjusted his glasses, making them gleam under the light.
"Heh, acting pretty high and mighty, aren't you? Who the hell do you think you are?" However, as he met the client's calm gaze, Jason's smirk started to fade. "Wait. Don't tell me." There was a hint of unease in his voice. The client continued speaking in a matter-of-fact tone. "YCD's reputation hasn't been great lately. Especially the projects under your management, there have been quite a few problems, haven't there?" Jason's face turned pale. "Wait a second. Who even are you?" At that moment, a horrifying realization struck Jason. His voice trembled as he asked, "Oh, you might be." Jason's demeanor changed instantly, and beads of cold sweat began forming on his forehead. At last, he was starting to realize the true identity of the person before him. "Nice to meet you. I'm Michael Carter, CEO of Powerful Powers. You may not know me, but your arrogant behavior is quite infamous in the industry." "Wait. Michael Carter? You mean that Mr. Carter? What are you doing here? And what do you mean by rumors?" The moment Jason recognized him as the CEO of a rival company, his expression completely changed, and he quickly set down his chopsticks. "I happened to hear that Snufla was working on something very interesting. When I looked into it, I realized it had serious potential. So, we've been in negotiations for a while now. Hard work and patience really do pay off, don't they?" As Mr. Carter spoke with enthusiasm, Jason's face grew increasingly pale. This all traced back to 4 years ago when I returned to the main office. Back then, Snufla was still just a fledgling company, full of potential but far from its peak. Its founder and the president, Mr. Thomas, had been a branch manager at the major telecom company Hardlink, frequently traveling overseas. Naturally, when he launched Snufla, he made sure to expand its reach internationally as well. At the time, the need for infrastructure development in developing countries was a hot topic. Seeing an opportunity, Mr. Thomas set his sights on the telecommunications sector, leveraging our company's expertise to establish a foothold in information infrastructure development. That's when I, a mere second-year employee, was chosen to spearhead this crucial project. The reason? My fluency in multiple languages and my extensive knowledge of system architecture, which I had cultivated since my student years. The pressure was immense. Failure wouldn't just hurt the company's revenue, it would tarnish its reputation. For a 34-year-old, it was an overwhelming burden. Even so, I poured everything I had into it, my language skills, my communication abilities, and worked shoulder to shoulder with local system engineers, sweating through every challenge. Our efforts bore fruit. In a developing country with fewer than 10,000 people, we successfully established a telecommunications company and built the infrastructure needed to spread internet access. It was a resounding success for the company, and I was set to return home with an unprecedented promotion. But then, I stumbled upon something unexpected. During a casual conversation with local engineers, I learned that language translation technology was becoming an increasingly hot topic. Today, translation apps are commonplace, but back then, they were a niche concept with little recognition. One of the engineers mentioned that his company was actively working on developing a practical translation system. At first, it sounded like something out of a cartoon fantasy. But when they showed me a prototype, I was blown away. The system was designed with solid logic, complete with well-thought-out solutions for potential bugs. They had also deployed local teams in various countries to analyze regional dialects and linguistic nuances. One of the engineers chuckled, mentioning that English can be particularly difficult due to ambiguous phrasing and cultural nuances that don't always translate well. Yet, there was something undeniable in their passion. They were serious about bringing this technology to the world. I have a feeling this could gain significant traction in Japanese market as well. With that in mind, I went straight to Mr. Thomas and pleaded my case. I asked for an extension on my stay, hoping to delay my return by a few years so I could join the team working on the translation system's practical implementation. To be honest, I later regretted getting involved purely out of passion. The field was too uncharted, too unpredictable. But after making such a bold request to Mr. Thomas, I couldn't just walk away. At first, the local engineers saw me as some sort of foreign anomaly. But as I worked tirelessly and remained sincere in my approach, they gradually accepted me. The distance between us shrank bit by bit. I poured every ounce of my expertise into the project, going beyond just my role at Snufla. Before long, I had built an unshakable bond of trust not just with the team, but with the company itself. Even Mr. Thomas recognized my efforts. Then, to my shock, he made an unbelievable offer. If this translation system is successfully completed, Snufla will be granted full ownership. You're free to develop and expand the business however you see fit. At first, I thought I misheard him. This was an extremely rare offer in the business world. I hesitantly reported the news to Mr. Anderson of Snufla. Of course, Mr. Anderson was so stunned that he muttered, half jokingly yet with a hint of genuine concern, "This isn't some kind of scam, right?" However, the very next day, he received an international call that confirmed everything Daniel had said. That was the moment he realized it was all real. From there, things moved quickly. The negotiations progressed smoothly, and in the end, both parties finalized a deal. Snufla would acquire the translation system for an astonishing $10 million. This project is something you fought for with your sweat and tears. We'll register it under your name. When Mr. Anderson said that to me, I felt a surge of emotion. Memories of the struggles, the friendships I had built, and the sheer effort poured into this project flooded my mind. More than ever, I felt determined to ensure our work wouldn't go to waste. Upon my return, I immediately set up the necessary legal processes. Snufla officially launched a new division dedicated to refining the translation system, enhancing its accuracy, and integrating it with apps. Armed with our newly acquired technology, we pitched it to several major system development companies. Among them, the one that showed the most interest was none other than Powerful Powers, YCD's biggest rival. What? No one told me about this. What's going on? Jason stammered. Oh. I believe the documents I provided the other day contained a detailed explanation. You didn't read them, did you? That's. Jason was at a loss for words. Judging by your reaction, it seems you have no real desire to work with us. No, wait. A small, amateurish company like yours couldn't possibly be working on anything significant. You may see us as amateurs, but there are plenty of small companies making meaningful contributions to society. Still, you could have at least explained it to me back then. Jason snorted, glaring at us sharply. But you wouldn't even listen at that time, remember? Once again, my words hit the mark, leaving him silent. I decided to drive the point home. You've been looking down on our company, calling us small and insignificant. This is simply the result of your own arrogance catching up with you. Still, refusing to tell me anything at all, isn't that unfair? At this point, anything you say just sounds like the desperate whining of a sore loser. Jason couldn't say anything. All right, let's leave it at that. Mr. Carter said, his gaze shifting to Lillian, who was still standing there, drenched from the rain. Honestly, I'd love to move forward with finalizing the contract right now. But our key negotiator here has been in this state for too long. She's going to catch a cold. This isn't the time for business talks. Let's reschedule. Lillian, you should head home and change immediately. Yes, thank you. Lillian replied, her voice still weak as she bowed deeply. I bowed as well, expressing my gratitude. Thank you for your time today. We look forward to working with you in the future. As Mr. Carter casually waved and started walking away,
he suddenly turned back toward Jason and said something unexpected.
"Oh, by the way, I'll be sure to mention today's incident to your CEO, Mr. Harris.
The world sees us as rivals, but back in the day,
we were quite the reckless pair. Just thought you should know. Mr. Carter."
"Wait, please, wait a second." In a panic, Jason tried to stand up, but his legs, stiff with tension, got caught on his chair. He stumbled clumsily. As if that wasn't embarrassing enough, his loosened belt got snagged as he tried to chase after Carter, sending him crashing to the floor in a spectacularly undignified fashion right in front of the entire restaurant.
"Ha!"
Lillian, covering her mouth with her hand, let out a quiet chuckle. Seeing that, for some reason, I felt a sense of deep satisfaction. The turning point for Snufla, and so, Snufla and Powerful Powers successfully sealed the $800 million contract, marking the beginning of an entirely new service venture centered around translation systems. Powerful Powers had originally started as a staffing agency and had rapidly expanded, becoming one of the most promising companies in the industry. Securing a partnership with a company of their scale meant that we now had the opportunity to form connections with other businesses under their corporate umbrella. It was a chain reaction of success. But more than anything, what made this partnership truly exciting was Mr. Carter himself. He was someone who valued the essence of work, not the size of a company. During negotiations, he actively engaged in discussions about the software we were developing and even shared valuable insights on teamwork, not from a profit-driven perspective, but from a place of genuine mentorship. In that sense, working with Powerful Powers wasn't just about boosting revenue, it was about growing as professionals. I was confident that this partnership would be an invaluable experience, and as it turned out, I was absolutely right. The employees at Powerful Powers seemed to share Mr. Carter's sharp intellect and sense of humor.
They were incredibly talented,
consistently exceeding expectations and delivering results beyond what we had proposed.
For Snufla, this collaboration brought a fresh energy we hadn't experienced before.
The atmosphere in the office became noticeably more lively and motivated, as if everyone had rediscovered their drive.
"Hey! We just got an amazing proposal." Tyler burst into the office, practically out of breath, and wasted no time getting straight to the point.
We had already been in discussions with Powerful Powers about integrating our translation system into an existing hospital search app.
But now, they wanted to take it a step further, a complete rebranding.
They suggested hosting a joint design competition between both companies to create a brand new app icon and user interface. It had been years since our last internal and external design competition.
And since anyone, regardless of department, could participate, this was a rare chance for everyone to showcase their skills. The office buzzed with excitement and anticipation, a level of enthusiasm we hadn't seen in a long time. We couldn't afford to let this opportunity slip away. The surge in employee motivation had a ripple effect across the company, positively impacting our other business relationships as well. Success breeds success. New contracts with existing clients started rolling in one after another.
Even companies we had worked with only once in the past reached out with new business proposals.
Before we knew it, Snufla was gaining serious recognition in the industry.
The numbers spoke for themselves. This quarter's revenue was set to exceed all expectations. In fact, we were about to achieve the most profitable fiscal year since the company's founding. And as a direct result of my contributions to this success, I was officially promoted to department head. A promotion to department head before the age of 40 was almost unheard of, and the office erupted into a full-blown celebration.
"Daniel, you did it! I always thought you were perfect for a department head position. I'll follow you anywhere. Congratulations on your promotion." "Thanks, everyone."
From a distance, Lillian had been quietly watching the celebration. But then, she made her way over to my desk, just to say those few words. Thinking back to that rainy night, when she had stood there, soaked and crying, I knew without a doubt I wouldn't be here without her.
Lillian, once things settled down.
Before I could finish my sentence, one of my juniors approached me with a work-related question, cutting me off. I never got the chance to say what I had intended.
Lillian, too, seemed to have something she wanted to say.
Her reluctant, lingering expression stayed with me, etched into my mind.
Jason's fall and YCD's consequences.
Meanwhile, Jason's blunder had cost YCD a fortune. And as the truth came to light, he was forced to take full responsibility. Apparently, this incident had exposed his long history of mistreating business partners. Just like he had done with us, Jason had a long history of belittling smaller companies, sneering at their size and treating them as insignificant. He would exploit YCD's dominant position, deliberately forcing unfavorable contract terms onto weaker partners. Worse yet, he would expense his personal luxury meals under the client's budget, disguising them as business meetings. As more and more of his questionable practices came to light, it became clear that his behavior extended beyond just Lillian.
If he found a female employee from a client company attractive, he would relentlessly pursue her.
And if she rejected him, he would spread rumors to damage her reputation. For YCD, keeping an employee like Jason was a serious liability, a stain on their corporate image. They had no choice but to fire him. When he received the news of his dismissal, his face was reportedly filled with a despair unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. He begged, desperately pleading to be transferred to any department, as long as he wasn't fired. But no one, not his colleagues, not even his superiors, was willing to stand up for him. In fact, many within YCD felt relieved to see him go. Many employees at YCD, who had long been frustrated with Jason's arrogance, felt relieved when he was finally gone. Considering how much resentment he had built up, he must have caused countless issues within the company.
Not that I have any interest in knowing the full extent of his actions.
With him gone, YCD's work environment reportedly improved significantly. Mr. Carter said, his gaze shifting to Lillian, who was still standing there, drenched from the rain. YCD has repeatedly expressed interest in resuming business with us, even on a small scale.
Once our work with powerful powers settles down,
we plan to reconsider. While it was troubling that they let a problematic employee like Jason run unchecked, the company seems to be making real efforts to change. If they truly improve, working together again wouldn't be a bad thing. Seasons gradually changed, and the wind began carrying a noticeable chill.
Hey, Daniel?
As I walked through the city, a stranger suddenly called my name, making me stop in my tracks.
Yeah? And you are?
I studied his face, but no memory came to mind.
It's me, Jason. From YCD. What? My confusion was justified. The Jason I once knew always had lightened, shoulder-length hair, which he constantly played with.
His skin was tanned, and he always looked sharp in a slim-fit suit.
But the man standing before me now? Short black hair, a rounder face,
and an overall stocky build, he looked like an ordinary middle-aged man.
Jason, is that really you?
You've changed a lot, not just your look, but everything about you. He scratched his head with a sheepish grin and said,
Yeah, I know. Hard to believe, right? I've put on over 20 pounds since then. Never thought I'd end up like this.
He gave his now chubby body a little shake, almost as if to prove his point.
Strangely enough, instead of arrogance,
there was something oddly endearing about him now.
Well, at least you seem to be doing all right, I said. Daniel,
Suddenly, Jason's expression turned serious.
Back then, I was really.
I'm truly sorry for everything.
Jason.
I was completely full of myself.
And on top of that, I said horrible things to Lillian. I didn't know what to say. A heavy silence hung between us. What are you doing now? I finally asked. Well, about that.
And with that, Jason began to share his story. After being fired from YCD, he spent months doing nothing, living like a recluse. He had no motivation, no direction. But one day, he saw a documentary about an IT entrepreneur. Something about it deeply resonated with him, making him realize he needed to start over. He applied to various system development companies, both big and small, but faced rejection after rejection. At one point, he even felt completely lost. Then, by pure chance, he received a message on social media from someone he followed. They were looking for a programmer for a mobile game. He had some programming experience, so he took a chance, and to his surprise, he got the job. Now, he works in a small, tight-knit team full of anime-loving developers. His colleagues constantly tease him, but the workplace is warm and welcoming. Of course, his past career didn't matter here, he was just a junior employee now. The old Jason would have looked down on people like his current colleagues, likely disrupting the workplace with his arrogance. But after leaving YCD and finding himself alone, he realized how much it hurt to have no one around him. That pain forced him to change. He decided to treat others with respect. His new colleagues were laid back and friendly, constantly teasing him about his changed appearance. But not a single person brought up his past at YCD. For the first time, he experienced genuine human kindness. When I quit YCD and shut myself away, my pride was completely shattered. Seeing Jason laugh as he said that, I could tell he had reflected on his past mistakes and was now doing his best in his own way. Jason touched the faint acne scars on his cheek as he spoke. Back at YCD, I was unstoppable. Even in college, I was pretty popular. Women liked me at YCD too. Looking back, I think I used up all my good luck back then. I haven't had a single romantic connection since, he laughed bitterly. Though he laughed it off, I could see something deeper, a quiet regret lingering in his expression. How's Lillian doing? She's doing great. She's one of our top system engineers now. That's good to hear. His genuine look of relief told me everything. He truly regretted how he treated her. I guess it frustrated me, he admitted. I was used to getting what I wanted. Usually, if I just put in a little effort, women would fall for me. But Lillian never did. She always called herself shy, I said. Yeah, maybe. But after she joined Snufla, she changed. And especially after she met you. Me? Yeah, it was the same back then. She kept calling me, over and over, begging me to just listen, to at least consider working with YCD. She was so persistent. I actually thought she was going to ask to get back together. When I realized she only cared about the business, it hurt my pride even more. I felt completely discarded, and before I knew it, I lashed out at her. Jason paused, struggling to find his words before continuing. I really loved Lillian. Her honesty, her passion for her work, she had qualities I could never match. But when she left me, I couldn't face my own weakness. I could see tears welling up in Jason's eyes. Jason's expression was a mix of regret and frustration, a complicated blend of emotions. I thought I was just being a little mean. I couldn't be honest with my feelings, so I put up a front. But in the end, I didn't just hurt her, I ended up causing trouble for the company too. I was such an idiot. He let out a deep sigh, pausing for a moment before adding, if Lillian met you now, maybe she'd open up to you a little more. Nah, no way. Besides, isn't she still into you, Daniel? Wait, what? Why would you say that? Daniel, you're seriously clueless. I don't know about now, but someone as shy as her wouldn't fight so hard for you unless she had feelings for you. It's obvious. Jason grinned as he said that, then casually waved goodbye before walking off. He had finally finished his latest project and was heading to a small celebration with his colleagues. As I watched his back disappear, I took out my phone from my jacket pocket, knowing today was the day I had to say it.
An unexpected meeting. Hey, Daniel. Long day?
I let out a small smile, standing face to face with Lillian. Even though it was her day off, she had come out without hesitation when I asked to meet.
And for some reason, she had put extra effort into her appearance today.
Her usual straight, long hair was now softly curled, and a delicate earring swayed by her ear, one I had never seen before. She wore an elegant blue dress, and I couldn't deny it, she looked stunning. It made my heart pound like a teenage boy's. Since it was a special occasion, I had made a dinner reservation at a countryside restaurant, and we were now enjoying an amazing meal together.
I didn't expect you to know such a fancy place, she said with a teasing smile. Really? Well, my work meals usually consist of cheap standing noodles. The kind that costs like $4 a bowl. She giggled.
I actually admire how dedicated you are to your work, Daniel. Her words caught me so off guard that my hand froze midair, fork still in my grasp.
Really?
I was so flustered, I had to take a sip of water just to calm myself down.
You okay? She asked, tilting her head. Yeah. I just wasn't expecting that. Did I say something weird? No, not at all. I took a deep breath, straightening my posture.
Listen, Lillian, there's something I've been meaning to tell you for a long time now.
That's funny. I have something I want to tell you, too.
We exchanged glances.
So, who goes first?
All right, you go first. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves, and mustered all the courage I had.
I've been drawn to your dedication and determination while working together. And now, I don't just want to spend time with you at work, I want to be with you outside of work too. So, if you'd be willing. Wait. Can I say something first?
She cut me off at the most important moment, completely catching me off guard. I blinked, confused, but nodded. I decided to leave YCD because I felt like I wasn't growing as a person. Her unexpected story made me forget my nervousness for a moment. But even after changing jobs, my shyness didn't go away. I felt like my colleagues avoided me, and honestly, I thought I had hit rock bottom. She looked up at me, her eyes slightly glassy with emotion. But then, you reached out to me, Daniel. You didn't judge me by my looks, you saw me for my work.
And the way you acknowledged and praised me. It meant everything to me. Before I knew it, I had fallen for you, so, would you go out with me?
Before I even realized it, the words had slipped out of my mouth.
Huh? Wait, I was. This is supposed to be the guy's line.
I said, half jokingly, trying to hide how flushed my face had become.
That's not fair.
She laughed, her expression overflowing with happiness. Of course, I'd love to for a very long time.
Lillian bowed deeply as she spoke.
Something about the gesture felt so endearing, and before we knew it, we were both laughing together.
People can become hesitant or confident over the smallest things.
Meeting the right people is important, but what truly shapes our future is whether we seize opportunities or let them slip away. Watching Lillian grow and change right before my eyes made me realize that. Jason, too, had made a huge mistake, causing major losses for his company. Yet, he didn't give up, he found the strength to stand back up on his own. At that moment, Jason looked more refreshed and dignified than I had ever seen him before. Seeing both Lillian and Jason overcome their struggles and grow, I knew I couldn't fall behind. I wanted to carry the Snufla name with pride and set an example for my team and future generations.